What's going on, YouTube? I'm Brian from Whisky Library.
I'm Tim from Whisky Library.
And I'm Sniff from ScotchNSniff. And today we're going to be talking about just the whiskey, I think the whole whiskey market in general, and just what's going on with all of these companies. Not these companies specifically, but we were just having a little conversation about just whiskey and the markets and non-repeatable whiskeys and repeatable whiskeys and just what some of these companies are trying to do while they're riding this giant whiskey bubble. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that we're seeing with a lot of the distilleries, whether you're here in America, over in Scotland, is their ability to come out with kind of one-offs, right? Just kind of an experimental expression or just anything that they want to throw a label on. Whether it's good or not, they're able to kind of do that and not feel that they have to put that into their core product line.
I mean, that's a great point, Brian. I mean, with the demand for whiskey right now, you've seen a lot of age statements disappear from bottles. And one way for a distillery to really kind of create excitement without age statements is by doing these one-off bottles. And it's done to varying degrees of success, as we've been chatting about off camera a little bit here. One example is, Ardbeg. If you like peat, they're doing a great job of it. Whether you like each one of their expressions, they're not all going to be winners for you. But they're an example of a company who is able to take advantage of demand and create some really unique products with some exciting marketing.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a giant marketing team, though.
Right.
That's part of the thing. That's what makes Ardbeg Ardbeg. The whole Diageo, like, we have all this money behind you so that we can advertise all of this stuff to make it seem amazing. Like, you guys want to take some whiskey to space and age it in space?
That's right.
Done. And it just
That's going to taste awesome.
It just, what difference will it make? Well, I know they'll break
Yeah.
it down the science, and they'll market to you that it's going to make a giant difference, and the molecules are going to age differently in the wood, and all of this. But it keeps people ramping up into this. What can we do next? That's going to be the big thing that people will buy, that we can charge lots of money for, that we may not have spent a ton of time or money on.
But I don't even think, I mean, I agree with all of that, but I also don't think that everyone is looking at it as, how can we charge more and more and more money? Now, obviously, a lot of the limited and exclusive releases are demanding a higher price. A lot of that is also, though, because it's not in the core range, and it's a smaller stock they're using from. But, I mean, we brought out, like, the 1792 and... what is this, the sweet wheat?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so there wasn't like a huge story behind the sweet wheat or the high rye that they were doing. I think that they're great, experimentations and plays off of the 1792, which doesn't have a huge core range anyway. So it's also an opportunity, I think, though, for these distilleries to maybe try to figure out what their customer, what the consumer wants as a core range.
I think for some of them, though, it doesn't even matter, especially when it comes to bourbons.
Right.
As long as you call it limited, like this Booker's limited
Or
edition,
small batch.
or as long as you make a small amount of it, there's this giant, like, ravaging horde of people who are just like, oh my gosh, 1792 has a sweet wheat, I need to get it.
Right.
And then it just gets ridiculous.
And a lot of that's playing up to potential secondary market demand into the future, right? So a lot of these people may simply be speculating, hoping that these bottles are going to appreciate in value. But obviously, the three of us, we like to drink these bottles. We appreciate the quality of the spirits that have gone into each of these. Whether it's a pretty looking bottle or just something that's much more approachable.
Not as pretty.
There's a whole wide range of
This is like
levels.
a 6'2" brunette in heels.
That's my
It's
size
amazing.
bottle right over here.
And this is like a frumpy. She's wearing sweatpants. I don't know.
Right.
Which
Oh, no.
To be fair, I do generally, and this is going to sound weird on camera, I do generally find women in sweatpants actually more attractive for whatever reason. Everybody's different. But just this bottle, I mean, okay, you spend the money on this, and you see what you're getting. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting this. I'm getting an amazing box that comes with it. I'm getting the hype. I'm getting the Macallan feeling. I'm getting this opportunity to share with my friends. This bottle, you're like, I'm getting wax. I'm getting a synthetic cork. I'm getting a label that's half ripped off by the time it gets to me because my store doesn't care about it.
Well, but there's also 2 points to that, right? That is probably, and I'm really bad at math, I want to say like 4 or 5 times the cost of what this was.
On the secondary, though?
Oh, I'm not talking secondary
It's
because...
about double.
Yeah, well, this on the secondary, but that's also the difference between a distillery that does have a limited edition core range, right? So this is always going to be coming out. It may not be coming out in the vast quantities that every store in America is carrying it, but it is going to be available in pretty much every huge whiskey market. this was truly a limited edition. The Booker's limited edition rye was kind of a one-off. They couldn't repeat it again. So, I mean, it is the difference between creating a secondary or not, or having a secondary market versus not. I mean, I also think, I mean, you paid for all of that, right? I mean, that was a much more expensive bottle to begin with. I think Booker's could have easily, you know, upcharged another $100, another $200. Obviously, there was room in the secondary for it.
I mean, over the 300 that it already was, though. It seemed
well, I mean, it was going for between $500 and $800. You know, a few months ago.
That's true.
Well, and you know, when you're seeing a bottle like this that doesn't have all the glamour of this reflection over here, doesn't that make you feel a little bit better, maybe about the quality of the whiskey that's inside of it? Does that play into it at all for you?
To be 10,000% honest, the reflection is good, but there are a lot of other Macallans that I actually enjoy more. You know, this is
I think that goes right to my point, right? This bottle is
But I feel the same way about the Bookers, though. That's the problem. Is I literally feel the same way about the Bookers. I've given so much of that away. Honestly, over half that bottle was given away.
Maybe it's just not your style.
Well, and the rest of it will be given away by the end of the taping. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, Brian doesn't have to drive, so he's in good shape over
here. But I mean, I think that's also part of, you know, and that's a whole nother segment, right? Which is any of the hype or is any of the cost worth it? You know, if you want to spend $100, $200, $300, $1,000 for a bottle of whiskey, whether, you know, retail or secondary, is it still better than kind of that tried and true $40, $50, $75 bottle?
You got these bottles right here,
That's literally
right?
the reason why I brought out the JD, because this JD single barrel actually tastes good. It's ridiculously repeatable. I mean, you have to look at how their rick houses and the distillery is set up. Everything's computer controlled. We promise you, everyone will taste like this. Because calling something like this a single barrel, you know, or a small batch is one thing, because it's genuinely unique and it's actually that small batch.
Correct.
Calling a Jack Daniel's single barrel is like saying, by the way, we've taken out all of the different like possible things that could affect, like every factor that could go into making this taste differently is gone. We've literally made every one of these taste the same. So when you buy a Jack Daniel's single barrel and you go taste another one, every single barrel tastes like the same barrel. Like that's the magic of what they do.
Remarkable job of replicating.
That consistency is incredible.
And I mean, and I think that there's obviously a market for that, right? And there's the desire to have that. And I think Jack Daniel's has done that remarkably well for all of theirs, whether it's the Gentleman Jack, the regular old number 7, their single barrels. Right, I'm not talking about taste of any of them. I'm just saying that the quality and the consistency has always remained. You know, and it's interesting that Jack uses so much, I think, of you know, the technology to help them do that, whereas and I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes over at Heaven Hill, but like the Henry McKenna, again, I'm a fan of it, but I'm also a fan of it because it's a single barrel 10-year bottled and bond, you know, $35 a bottle. I mean, repeatable every single time. It's a single barrel,
but yet unique, right? And that's why there's a great price point for that.
And I just like to say repeatably bad. You know? So,
well, I disagree.
I can't get behind.
I disagree, but you know, that's the
why
beauty
there's
of
a
whiskey.
lot of different whiskey out there for everybody.
There is, and that is the best part about all of this. So if you guys, I mean, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this hype? What do you guys think about repeatability of some of these brands? Just, you know, leave us comments down below and let us know, and we'll definitely get back to you. Yeah. But for sure, yeah. No, do you guys have a handle that you can throw out for Instagram?
Sure. Yeah. So for Instagram, it's at whiskey_library_DC. There's a lot of underscores.
It's a lot of underscores.
Yeah.
That's it? You guys only have an Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh.
And a website, so whiskylibrarydc.com.
There you go.
There we go.
Through the website, actually, you guys... we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Another show. All right, thanks.